Our psalm begins, "The Lord is my shepherd." No beating around the bush here, right to the heart of things, and this is the tough one. Get on board with this one, and the rest will flow quite naturally. The Lord is my shepherd is nothing less than a surrender of our sovereignty. It's a way of saying, I'm not the one in charge. The shepherd is the one who is in charge, and David knew that well. As a youth, he was shepherd for his father's flock. Later in life, when the people came to make him king, they said, "And the Lord your God said to you, you will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become their ruler." The shepherd was the ruler. David now calls the Lord his shepherd, and he's drawing a picture for us that comes out of his most vivid childhood memories. The shepherd lived with his sheep. They were like family. He knew them. The sheep knew the shepherd. They recognized his voice, and when David calls the Lord his shepherd, he's not just saying the Lord is in charge. He's also saying that the shepherd loves his sheep. For David, the relationship of shepherd to sheep was one of the deepest affection. You may be asking, well, how do we know that? Well, remember in our first segment, we came to the valley of Elah. That was the place where the famous story of David facing the Goliath giant took place. When the army of Israel did not have one soldier who dared to face the Philistine giant in one-on-one combat, it was young David who volunteered. King Saul was ready to laugh him off, but David pleaded, and he told how he took care of his father's sheep, and one time a bear, and another time a lion, came and snatched one of his sheep. On both occasions, David went after them and rescued the sheep from their mouths. They turned on him, and David killed them. So he told King Saul he would do the very same thing to this giant Goliath who was defying the armies of the living God. And with his slingshot and his smooth stone from the riverbed, David did defeat that giant just as he prevailed over the wild animals that threatened his sheep. Now here's the point. We see that for the shepherd, he's going to even risk his life for the sheep. It was 1,000 years later when Jesus himself picks up on the very same point. He said in the Gospel of John, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." It was a relationship of love and affection. Here's another story from some times later. David was king, and he had done wrong. He committed adultery with Bathsheba, the wife of one of his loyal soldiers. She became pregnant. To cover up, David had her husband set up to be killed in battle. The prophet Nathan was sent to confront David with his sin and to pronounce upon him the judgment of God. Now realize that for Nathan to go before the king with this kind of judgment, he could have his head cut off. But Nathan knew David well, and he came up with a wonderful way to deliver this very difficult message. He tells him a story. It went like this. There was a rich man and a poor man. The rich man had a lot of sheep. The poor man had just one little lamb. And the poor man loved that lamb so much. The text reads, he raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. One time, the rich man had a guest, and instead of taking a lamb from his own large flock, he took the poor man's lamb to roast for dinner. David listens, and he becomes enraged. That rich man deserves death, he said. And David vows he's going to be made to pay 4 times over for the lamb. At that point, Nathan looks David in the eye and he says, "You are that rich man." And David crumbles. He was exposed and he repented before God. Now here's the point. This story only makes sense if David instinctively understands what this lamb meant to the poor man and how much he loved it. That's the emotional hook that gets to David. The story simply connects with his shepherd's heart. So we began with an acknowledgement of authority. The shepherd is in charge. And affection. The shepherd dearly loves his sheep. This means so much to me personally. Soon after I had my diagnosis of cancer, I was sent to the University of Pennsylvania Hospital for surgery. In preparation, I had Bible verses in my mind that I planned to reflect on. So, as I lay there waiting for the anesthetist, I started with the 23rd Psalm. I never got beyond the first phrase, "The Lord is my shepherd." Those words just sunk into my soul, and it was as if God spoke to me. Now, I don't mean out loud in a voice that anyone else would have heard, but it was as real as if it were a real voice. And the words were burned into my heart so deeply, I can never forget them. It was as if God said, "I'm the shepherd. You don't know where you're going right now, and you don't need to know. And you don't need to be afraid. I know the way. Your job is to follow where I lead." And then these words, "I'm going to take you to places where you have never been before." From that moment on, I have not doubted that we have a shepherd, that indeed that shepherd knows what he is doing, that he loves us so much, and we can follow him anywhere.